Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a fun weekend project. In this weekend project, I'm gonna teach you how to build an incremental data ingestion pipeline to power your downstream from your Apache Hudi data lake using incremental queries. That's correct. So in this weekend project, a lot of insert updates are happening on your transactional data lake. This is where your petabyte scale data, data lake is, right? So all your historical data, what 10 years is on the data lake, and you want to bring only 1 year of operational data into your, Aurora Postgres. So I'm going to show you how to basically leverage RFC51 change data capture and gather all these changes that are happening into Apache Hudi into Aurora landing tables. From landing tables, we're going to use stored procedures and CD to cleanse the data and move it into the stage area. So let's learn the entire architecture in action. Again, this entire architecture, you should be able to do it with me locally. So let's get started straight into action. So let's start building the project. So the first thing that we need in the architecture is a Postgres database. For this, I'm going to use Docker to spin up a Postgres. So I'm going to be in the project directory. Again, these files are given to you. Now, start a command called docker compose up, and as you can see, the Postgres database has started on my computer. Now we need to create two tables, that is landing and the stage. So we need to create two schema in Postgres, that is landing and the stage area. Again, landing is essentially anytime you insert, anytime you update anything, these changes will be captured by our Spark job, and they are going to put the data into landing. And then from there, we're going to cleanse it and use stored procedure to move data into the stage area. And eventually you can delete the landing data. So that is sort of the model that we're going to follow, right? So once this is done, now come to your PG admin. I will close this and I'm going to show you from scratch if you don't know. So I'm going to click no. So now on your PG admin, right click on register and then click on server. So if you do that, here you can give it any name, and the connection would be localhost. So I just want to show you the one that I have. So put localhost, put the username and the password as Postgres and the database name as Postgres as well. And after that, expand this, click on database, click on schema, and here you can see I have two schemas. If you don't have those schema, you can create the schema. You'll be given a file here, and here all the commands are given. Okay, so we're gonna do create schema landing, create schema stage. Okay, so these are the one that we're gonna do. Okay, so I'm gonna right click, gonna click on query tool. Since I have those schema, I'm gonna create my landing table. Copy that. Table has been created. And now I'm gonna create the stage table. And the table has been created. At this point, what we have done is we have a Postgres database. We have two schema, that is landing and stage area. Landing, everything would be by default as string because it's a landing area. It's a dumping zone where your incremental loads, where your Spark job is gonna query your transactional data lake, bring incremental data into your landing area. From there, we are gonna use stored procedures and CTE queries to dedupe the data and then bring it into the stage area or the cleanse area. That's where the business is gonna query the data, run all sort of queries there, right? Again, the way this architecture works is basically your transactional data lake will have 10 years, 5 years of data. So to derive valuable insight from your data, they can query the transactional data lake. And for your day-to-day operations, you can basically bring data into your downstream system. So the step is pretty clear. So the first step, what we did is basically spinned up a Postgres, created two tables called landing and stage. Now, the next step is let's create our Apache Hudi transactional data lake and insert certain data points, okay? So let's create our Apache Hudi transactional data lake. I'm on my screen, you'll be given a Jupyter notebook. Step one, we need to define the imports. Again, this data can come into the transactional data lake via batch processing, stream ingestion, various ways, right? So I'm gonna create a Spark session. Please make sure you're using the latest version of Hudi. RFC51 supports in the latest version of Apache Hudi. So here I'm basically creating a Spark session. Again, pretty straightforward, and I'll try to zoom in as much as I can. My Spark session has been created. Now here, a little bit detailed. So here I'm creating a database called HudiDB. Let me make sure I don't have anything on my data lake. I think I deleted everything. Yeah, I don't have anything. So my unique identifier is going to be UUID, and my precom key is going to be date. I'm going to use a copy on write, and here are the important thing. So Hudi table CDC enabled as true. Hudi table CDC supplemental logging mode as data before and after. Now here is the most amazing part. So now what I'm about to do is I'm going to insert a record 1 and 2 into my Apache Hudi transactional data lake. So I'm going to execute this cell. And then I'm going to show you the 300 lines of code that I have written. So again, don't worry, it's a template, makes your life much easier. So this might take about a second or two. Again, I'm performing everything on my computer, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Once the cell execution is complete, I'll show you a beautiful template that I have written. Again, it takes care of all the queries. It takes care of every single thing, okay, for you. So that is done. So if I go to C drive, and if you can see, I have my Apache Hudi, I have my base file, absolutely fantastic. So which means I have 2 records. Now let me show you the 300 lines of template that I have written. So what you need to do is you just need to come and edit your environment files, okay? So here, let me just quickly show you. So here, put your AWS access key, put your AWS secret key, put the region, destination database, we can put Postgres. Then the destination table is going to be landing.sample. Aurora username is Postgres, Aurora password is Postgres, and this is a JDBC connector. Now the template is pretty amazing what it does. So basically, if I had to share the code, again, everything will be given to you. You don't have to worry about that. I have written about all these. I have written all these methods for you and made your life much easier. So this template, what it does is basically when it starts for the first time, it will first basically grab the beginning commit, and then it's gonna query incrementally, and it's gonna get the data, insert, updates, whatever happened, right? And it's gonna basically get the data, and then essentially once it gets the data, it would save the last pointer into S3. So next time when you run, it's gonna check the metadata file. Do you have a metadata? If yes, it's gonna start from that last commit. So basically you're gonna process incremental data. So hopefully that made sense. But again, when I show you, it's gonna make sense. So now I'm about to run this Python file, and what do I anticipate here is, if you observe, first I'm gonna walk you. So if you see, I'm creating a Spark session. Again, I have this helper class called Hudi incremental reader. All I need to do is pass in an S3 bucket, need to pass in my table name and my Hudi path, right? And the Spark session. And then I'm calling the read method here. So again, all that logic is baked into it. Now, after that, what I'm doing is I'm checking if the data frame is not empty. If it is not empty, basically when RFC51 Apache Hudi, the changes that are happening in the Hudi, it's gonna return you like a Debezium format. So I guess this is gonna make sense if I run it rather than explaining. So what I'm gonna do over here, I am in the landing area, and essentially I'm gonna open up that table. I shouldn't have a table right now. I mean, I shouldn't have any data. So if I do select star from, and I put landing.sample. Observe, I don't have any data, right? So now I'm gonna show you, okay? So now what I'm about to do is I'm gonna run this template, okay? Again, this is a template. All you need to do is edit your environment variable. So the code, if I had to explain you in general, it grabs, basically performs the incremental query, and then it gets the Spark data frame. After that, I am essentially interested in the after part, because just like Debezium, Apache Hudi will give you the before and the after part, what has changed in your data. After that, just certain cleaning, and then I'm essentially writing that into my Aurora Postgres. So let's just run this and see everything in action. So I'm about to run this Python file, and this can take up to about a minute or two. I'm gonna, just, again, absolutely will make sense once it runs, okay? So now I'm gonna zoom, I'll try to zoom in as much as I can, and hopefully if the credentials are correct, things should work fine. So now I'll be running the cell, and here you can see we did capture, as you can see, I stands for insert. I made 2 inserts, right, on my Apache Hudi transactional data, like 1 and 2, right? So we basically captured that, right? And then it has been inserted into my Aurora landing. So now if I come here, I refresh, and here you can see I have my 2 data points. Absolutely fantastic. Now another thing that I have to show you is this template is pretty smart. It stores the metadata. So now let me just show you really quick. So I think the best way to show you, I'll actually download it, it's fine. Will take me a second or two. Let me open that file, download. I'll open it in Notepad++, hopefully. So if you observe, it did store the last commit. So now my template knows from where it needs to start the incremental query, is what I wanted to show you. So now again, I'll do one more thing, and this will definitely make sense. So I'm going to insert 1 and 3. Remember, I have record number 1 and 2. Now I'm updating record 1. This is late arriving updates, and I'm doing a new insert. Okay, so I'm just going to run this cell. Okay, so all we have done is inserted 3 records so far, record 1 and 2, and then we updated the record 1 and inserted a 3rd record. Okay, so again, I'm running this. This can take up to about a second or two, and then we're going to run our template. Okay, so let's wait for this. Again, I'm trying my best to explain you all the steps here. Okay, so I think the execution has completed, and here you can see I have 3 records, right? So hopefully that made sense. Now when I run my template, okay, what would happen is it would basically start from the last commit, which is this particular commit over here. Remember, we have saved it on the S3. So again, the template is pretty smart. Okay, so now we're going to run this template. So it's going to fetch the metadata file from S3, and it's going to perform an incremental query, and it's going to load into our Aurora landing. So at this point, this will definitely make sense if once you see this in action. Okay, if you observe this, it did load the last commit. So now it knows from where it needs to perform the incremental query to load my downstream application. And observe this. So U and I, so basically I stands for insert and U stands for update. So there was an update, right, on record number 1, right? So we captured that, right? So now if I go to my Aurora, or Postgres, right? So here you can see record number 1 and 2. Observe over here, please. So UUID 1 and 2, and then we have essentially updated the record 1, and then we have inserted a record 3. So now again, I made your life easy, man. I have wrote a generalized stored procedure, or stored procedure, which will perform the DEDUP, and then we're going to insert it into the stage area using CTE queries. So let's see that in action. Again, so in the project directory, you are given a stored procedure called DEDUP proc landing.sql. Again, I'll try my best to walk you, but again, it's pretty straightforward, right? I'm creating a CTE. Again, I'm selecting the record, right? And basically, I'm just performing certain dedupe. So let me execute this first. So first of all, what I'm about to do is I need to open a new tab. So I'm gonna right click, query tool. And again, all this code is given to you, right? I mean, this is a real world project, I'm not kidding. So I'm gonna execute that. So the stored procedure has been saved. So I'm gonna invoke this stored procedure, okay? Observe. Now, in Postgres, you do that by using call, okay? Now I'm gonna execute this stored procedure. Observe, okay? Before that, let me just take a photograph so I can show you that it does work. Otherwise, you'll be like, Samuel, you didn't show that. All right, observe. So before I run that, what is the anticipation? After the deduping happens, right? I anticipate, so the green is what I expect, right? So I expect this record, right? Number 3. I accept this record as well. I expect this record as well, and the 1 should be removed. So record now, it's an old record, right? So after dedupe, this should be removed, right? So if I take my pencil, this one over here should be removed, okay? So now observe, okay? So I'm gonna call the stored procedure. Let me see, call. Oh yeah, I have a dot. Hold on, let me get rid of that. I think I have to say landing dot. Let me just make sure on my snippets out there. Let me see. Let me demo.sql. Yeah, I forgot the word landing. So that makes sense. So yeah, that's why I usually keep snippets. It comes pretty handy. So now I'm about to execute the cell. Observe, the stored procedure has executed. Now if I go to landing, voila, the latest update is there. You see, so record number 1 it's an update. So that old one basically got removed. Now from landing in our architecture, we have the data in the landing, we deduped it using stored procedure, and now we're gonna insert that into the stage area. So now basically if I go ahead, I have if I remember, it was it here, yeah. So this is the CTE query that I wrote, or basically simple query. So insert into stage.sample, right? These are the columns. I'm selecting from landing, right? And then here I'm doing a left join, right? And I'm doing a left join on basically the stage area. And then I'm saying on conflict, which means when I insert records into stage, and if you see a conflict, simply update that, because in stage I have a primary key, right? So again, next time when an update comes and if I try to insert, it's gonna complain, right? So I'm saying on conflict, update that. Again, please review this. This is a fantastic project that any data engineer can try it out. So I'm gonna copy this CTE query now, put this here. I'm gonna, before that I wanna actually do select star from stage dot sample. I'm gonna execute that guy over here. Again, nothing there, right? So now we will basically use a query to insert data from landing into the stage area. So let me show you that. So I'm on my screen. Again, pretty straightforward. Again, please do this project. It could be a great project for data engineers, right? If you just want to learn some stuff, right? So now I'm saying that insert into the stage area, select these from the landing table, and then on conflict means, remember, in stage you will have a primary key, right? Which means anytime you update something, for example, let's say in this example only, right? Today you update, let's say you have record number 1, right? And then basically you inserted that into the stage, right? And then you deleted the landing. Tomorrow, let's say an update came on record number 1. So when you again try to insert, there will be a conflict, right? Because in the stage, the primary key is the UUID. But in the landing, it's an auto increment, right? So basically what we're gonna do is what we are saying here is on conflict, basically update the data. That's basically what we are saying. So I'm gonna copy this, come to this, and then I'm gonna execute now the query. Here you can see it has successful. And now if I go to the stage area, there you go, voila, there you go. And now basically you can go ahead and delete data from landing, right? So hopefully you got the idea, right? How data is moving. So this is a complete solution where you have your transactional data lake. You are essentially capturing, insert, update, deletes happening into transactional data lake, bringing them into Aurora Postgres into the landing. From there, we essentially did the dedup, right, using stored procedure. And after doing the dedup, we essentially inserted the data into the stage area. And then all you gotta do is now just remove the data in the landing. So for now, I'm just pretending to remove it manually, right? So if I truncate, again, I'm just writing it for now, right? So hopefully you got the idea, right? You know what, I'm just do it on the landing area. So landing and truncate, yes. All right, so the data is gone from landing. So now we have moved data from the landing into the stage, basically from our Apache Hudi transactional data lake, as you can see. Now, tomorrow when, more data comes in, for example, let's say, again, just showing you how the template works, right? Right? So now I'm gonna do, let's say the record number 4 and 5 came in, okay? So I'm gonna insert that into data lake and then just gotta show you, insert. I can call this 4, I can call this 5, and this can be 55 or whatever that is, doesn't really matter. Again, I'm gonna insert this data into the data lake, right? Now, once this is inserted, when I run my template, I'm gonna get the changes happening in my transactional data lake. I'm gonna bring that into the landing. I'm gonna dedupe, I'm gonna move that into the stage area, then delete landing, and so on. So hopefully you got the idea. Again, this is a classy project that you guys can try. So now I'm again gonna come to the Hudi template. I'm gonna run the Python file. And again, now it should start from the point, it has to do an incremental query, which means it would query the S3 for the metadata, and it's gonna start the incremental query from the last point. So I anticipate to only see record number 4 and 5. This guy, okay, that's sort of the expectation here. So here you can see it did load from the last commit. It will basically form the incremental query, and then it's gonna query the data, and then it's gonna bring the new data into our landing area. So now if I go to the landing area, right, hopefully you guys are getting it right. So as you can see, right, 5 and 6, record number 4 and 5, right. Now what we do is basically we call the dedup stored procedure, right. So we call the dedup procedure. We did the dedup in the landing, right? We again execute, right? Now we're gonna move the data from landing into the stage area, right? So I'm gonna execute the CTE, right? So that's done, right? Now we check the stage area to see if we got the data or not. Look at that. That's an entire pipeline, huh? So look at that, man. Flawless. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Perfect. And then what you can do is now again the landing table gets truncated. So you got the idea. This is one of the fantastic projects any data engineers can try. I'm telling you literally, because looks easy, but it's not easy. There are so much things are involved here. You are doing incremental query. There's a big code that's basically processing, it's serializing the JSON, then it's upserting into our Aurora landing. From there, the stored procedures are taking data. So this is something, if you can try and if you can make it work, hats off. So I encourage you to try this out. Again, it's a tough project. Looks easy, but it's not, right? Usually this entire pipeline, a team of engineers are usually working on this, right? So I encourage you to go see the code, what I have done, try this entire pipeline out, because this will give you nice idea. Oh, this is how it goes. Oh, this is what the stored procedure. Oh, this is what the CTE does. I encourage you to try it out, okay? So that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Keep smiling, keep programming. Entire source code can be found in my GitHub section. So please try the project out.